Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. We have an amazing guest today, and not only is she a great guest, she's going to be a TV star, and she's a good friend of mine, which is also nice to interview someone who's your friend. And as I have sort of advertised on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, Barbara Butcher, and we're going to talk about Barbara's cases, her life as a medical legal investigator, and her life now, which is even more exciting because she's got her own TV show called The Death Investigator. And the show is doing very, very well. And it's probably, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but it's probably a dream of Barbara's to have her own TV show and be the star. She's not a second stringer. She's the star of this show. And I'm sure she loves it because she loves the attention, So we're going to talk to Barbara. We're going to talk about her life as a medical legal investigator. We're going to talk about her book. And if you don't have this book, What the Dead Know, what the hell are you waiting for? It's on Amazon. You can get it. I read it in about 2 days. I couldn't put it down. And I was touching in so many places. It was, I don't know. I was enamored by it because I know Barbara. And even if I didn't know her, I would have been like, wow, holy, I don't want to use a curse word. Holy shit, this is unbelievable, And it really is. And it's the kind of book that movies and TV shows are made of. And voila, she has her own TV show now. So, folks, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your loved ones. Hold on to your thoughts. Hold on to your prayers. Hold on to that service dog. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone. The police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And without further ado, we're going to introduce the guest of honor. Barbara Butcher, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's so good to see you, as always. But you did say a little something about that I like attention. Oh, me? No, not me.
Who doesn't like attention? We were both from those big Irish Catholic families that we needed a lot of attention because we weren't getting it. So I think that's what we brought to the world,
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 9. So, the attention was divvied out in little tiny packets, and I only got a half packet because I was too old to need it. So
I was the third of 8. So you beat us with numbers, but I know what it's like to be from a large family. So, Barbara, so many things have happened to you in the last couple of years, all good things, all good things. And I mentioned your book, What the Dead Know. And, people don't understand the science of death investigation. And you're from the medical field, the medical part of that. And a medical legal investigator has very specific duties at the scene of a DOA, dead on arrival. That's what we use in police jargon, dead on arrival. And not every single death is a homicide. Many deaths, you responded to over 5,000 death scenes. If they were all homicides, I'd be moving out of New York City. I'd be moving out of New York, be like, oh my God. But even you respond to regular run-of-the-mill, and I don't mean to minimize that, of DOAs, because if someone dies of a natural cause, there's no reason really for anyone to get crazy about it. But every case must be considered a homicide until facts, circumstances, and the science dictate otherwise. Your thoughts, Barbara. Educate us here.
You're absolutely right. Every single scene must be approached with suspicion. So my job, when people think about the medical examiner, they think about the autopsy. And an autopsy gives you one thing, the cause of death, right? So it's gunshot wound, stab wound, heart disease. There's tens of thousands of causes of death. But my job is to find out the manner of death. Obviously, a forensic pathologist can't leave an autopsy table, go out to a scene, and figure out what's happening. So that's where I come in. I go to the scene and work with the police to find out this gunshot wound to the head. Was it homicide? Was it a suicide? Or was it an accident? Because that happens plenty, as you know. So my job is to figure out the circumstances surrounding the death so that the medical examiner, in reading my report, looking at my photos, can see, why I'm taking this direction. Whether it's ballistics, blood spatter, and just common sense stuff too. But the forensics are very important. So I work together with the crime scene detectives and the catching detectives to figure it all out. You said something about run-of-the-mill death. I never approach a case as, when when the dispatch calls and says, Barbara, you got a natural over in the 19th precinct. What do you mean? Who says it's a natural? She says, well, that's what the police told me. No. It's not a natural till I say it's a natural. So in going over there have been times when a death looked, regular, like no big deal. I'm thinking about an old lady with heart disease, laying in the bed, doors are locked, and certainly seems like a perfectly normal natural death. She's got all the drugs next to her on the bed, nitroglycerin and stuff for her heart. But then on a closer look, and a colleague of mine, Frank DiPaolo, you remember Frank?
Yes.
He was doing this case. He takes a closer look. The bed sheets are in disarray. There's a drawer pulled open. And the lady has slight bruises on her neck. But the big sign, petechial hemorrhages under the eyelids. Those little hemorrhages that indicate strangulation with the blood pressure building up and bursting out through the capillaries.
I thought you were going to say asphyxia because I try not to use that word because it's hard to spell in your report.
People get confused with these terms. Asphyxia is any way of cutting off oxygen to the brain. So that can be through ligature strangulation, smothering, gases, lots of different ways. But as specifically, asphyxia in this case was due to manual strangulation. And there have been times, too, when I've been called into a homicide. I remember this guy over on the west side. He fell down the stairs, and he's got a nice, neat hole, center of his head. And on the side of the stairway leading out to the alleyway, there's all these little shell casings from 22 bullets. And the guy say to me, Barbara, looks like he got shot right in the forehead. All these shell casings here, I don't know what. It looks like a homicide to me. I said, wait a second, that entry hole in his head, it looks a little odd. It doesn't have the abrasion ring of a bullet wound. It doesn't have that feeling of symmetry. In fact, it's a little offline. So I'm looking closely around him, and I see that, he's hit the wall. And on the wall, it's got the baseboard is made of stone, and it comes to a really sharp point. And as I'm getting in closer to this guy, I realize he stinks of alcohol. He smells like 3 bar rooms uncleaned for a month. And I realized, wait a second, I think this guy fell down the stairs head first and struck his head right on that corner. And sure enough, when I get in there really close on that corner, I see a tiny bit of tissue and blood. Sample that, matches him. It was an accident, an alcoholic accident.
Wow. Something only an experienced medical legal investigator would know how to look for that and to match those two things up. Because I remember, I think I may have told you about this case. I went to what I thought was a suicide once, and it was a guy laying in a bed, and he had a gunshot wound under his chin, and the exit wound was out the back of his head and into the wall. I was like, this is an easy one, suicide, right? But the gun was gone. And that's one of the rules that sort of says no gun, no suicide. And then as the medical legal investigators got there, we find a second gunshot wound in his ear. Guess what? No suicide, homicide.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this particular case of the guy sliding down the stairs, the reason all those the shell casings were in the hall is because the kids went in there and shot targets through the hallway out into the alleyway. I went out there and I see all these targets and cans. So there was just a little shooting gallery.
Yes.
Not the way we usually use it, which is for heroin use, shooting gallery. But yeah, it was just, it was a really interesting case to me. And being a medico-legal death investigator, I get the best, absolute best of both worlds. I get to work with the finest detectives on the planet, and I get to work with the finest forensic scientists who can test these things. So what a great job I had. The absolute best.
Barbara, you used the term manner of death. And to our listeners, they may not know what that is. So you would just tell us what the manner of death is.
Sure. A cause of death is, gunshot wound, strangulation, heart disease, cancer, etc. But the manner is homicide, suicide, accident, or natural. So,
well, there's one more, Barbara.
The cuppy.
Undetermined.
Yes, the dreaded cuppy. Cause unknown, pending police investigation. So what we're doing essentially is lobbing it back to you. Like,
I didn't mean to one-up you there, but I just didn't.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's a bitch, getting the case thrown back at you. Hey guys, we can't help you. We don't know. Go figure it out and let us know.
But what you do also, besides what the detective investigator does, is you have to know, obviously death terms, blood spatter. And that's a science. Yeah. How to read blood spatter. Where did the attack take place? Where did the blows take place? How is the spatter on the wall or on the surface? Cast-off stains, all of these crime scene terms that mean something to the death investigator. And the cast-off term could be someone hits you with something, and as they pull it back, there's blood on the blunt object, and it flies off the blunt object and hits the ceiling. Yeah. And an experienced investigator like you would say, that's a cast-off stain. But to the novice, they would say, how the hell did blood get on the ceiling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always loved physics in college, and it's all about physics. Blood has a certain viscosity, a certain velocity when thrown through the air, and it lands in ways that tells us a lot. So if I walk in, I remember this case where the two guys had their throats slit by serial killers named George Cobo and Tony Lee Simpson. And I could tell exactly where the victim was standing and where the perpetrator was standing, because he slit his throat in one swoop and the carotid artery sprayed like a fountain onto the wall next to him. I could tell exactly where he was standing. And then there was a tiny interruption in that spray. It wasn't the perfect arc landing on the wall. What did that mean? It means the killer's behind him, like this, slashing, so it blocked a little bit of that spray. I thought, man, there's the choreography of a murder. Wow. When you can tell how people moved, where they stood. It was a case back in my early days, two owners of a bar, partners in this business, and one of them shot dead on the floor. And the guy's telling us, look, I had a gun, he had a gun. We were arguing and fighting, and he picked it up to shoot me, and I shot him first before he could get me. Like, no, you didn't. The blood spatter and the blood spray is on the wall low, next to the ground. This guy was laying on the ground when you shot him. And that's why we get this blood splash low down on the column. Wish I still had that picture.
Barbara, that's so important, not to tell the perpetrator that, but to tell the detectives that.
Right.
So they can use that in the interview and interrogation of this guy, and they can let him tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell you the story. Yeah, and then they go in and they use what's known in detective lingo as logic, and they kill him with logic. They feed them the logic, and they go, it couldn't happen the way you said because of this and what you just explained.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic because most human beings, when hit with logic, will go, "Oh shit!" They don't know what to do after that. They know that the lies are up because you just thwarted them with logic.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying this in my head, of course. I'm not telling this to the perpetrator, but that's why I love testifying in court. I love to get this question, turn to the jury, and then teach them how I know what I know. And when you get those jurors all nodding, like, yeah, that makes sense. It's a great feeling.
You must have been amazing on the stand because one of the things defense attorneys hate is when you know how to testify and you talk to the jury. You don't look at them. They want you to look at them so they can use their intimidation skills, from lawyering 101. But if you're a smart, testifier, professional, you're going to talk to the jury. And the jury loves that because it's like you having a conversation and they feel important. So again, for all you novice investigators that are just starting out, talk to the jury. Don't talk to the defense attorney. So important, right?
Absolutely. My first time testifying, unfortunately, the defense attorney, he got to me. He pissed me off. He kept saying things like, "Miss Butcher, you have testified that this knife wound was the result of this, that, and the other thing. And tell me, have you ever written a book about knife wounds?" "No, I have not." "Have you ever written an article even about knife wounds?" "No, I have not." I said, "But I've seen at least 800 or 900 in the past 4 years. And so I know something about knife wounds." And he said, "Well, Miss Butcher, you're not even a doctor, are you?" "No, I'm not a doctor." I'm furious. And he got to me. So I told Dr. Hirsch, I said, "I think I blew this." He said, "No, I'm going to teach you the right way to testify. First, when anybody asks you a question, wait 5 seconds minimum. Then turn to the jury and answer them. They are the triers of fact. They're the important people in the room, not that attorney. So teach them, tell them."
Barbara, that is an outstanding technique because one of the methods that a defense attorney does, they want to do rapid fire questions. And so people that get rapid fire questions think that means that they have to give rapid fire answers. No, make the defense attorney wait for your answer. And when he says, "Yes, well, I'm thinking about my answer to make sure it's clear and that I remember it correctly, right? What can they say to that, right?
Nothing. I just did a case, I'm really excited. I was really excited about this. A case I did 31 years ago. Mother and a daughter were killed, murdered brutally for, I think, $12. And all these years, it's never been solved. We had an idea who it was, but the DNA found at the scene didn't match anybody in the data bank. The cold case unit, God bless them, they stay on these cases. They took another look, and this time it hit in the data bank. They got the guy. So I got to testify at trial after 31 years. And I remember this case. I can see everything about it because it upset me, a mother and daughter.
Right.
And thank God he was found guilty. And, it was such a clear-cut thing. But the interesting thing was that the defense attorney said to me, "Now, Miss Butcher, this case is a very important case, wasn't it?" I said, "Well, all cases are important to me." And he said, No. I mean, this case in particular, this death was really important to me." I said, "Again, counselor, every single death is important to me." And he's like, "Oh, shit." Now he lost his here. He was taking me somewhere. He was kind of trying to slide me into something. And I love the confidence that comes with knowing what you're talking about. I love being up there. I love working with the jury. So, hey, anybody need me to testify anything?
She's for hire. Folks, we're going to go to a quick commercial.
Have you or a loved one been injured in an accident with a commercial vehicle, like an 18-wheeler, delivery van, bus, or rideshare, and you weren't at fault? These cases aren't like regular car accidents. They involve corporations, insurance companies, and complex transportation laws. You need an experienced attorney who knows how to fight and win. That's where the team at 911 Law Call comes in. We connect you with top law firms that specialize in commercial vehicle accidents and have a proven track record of securing real compensation for victims just like you. The consultation is free. There are no fees unless we win. Call 866-814-2911 now. That's 866-814-2911. 866-814-2911. Justice for commercial vehicle victims starts here. 866-814-2911. No fees unless we win. That's 866-814-2911.
You know, Barbara, one of the things that everyone's waiting for, of course, your new show on the Oxygen Network is called The Death Investigator. I was almost going to say What the Dead Know. That's your book, The Death Investigator. I'm going to play a little clip from this, and then you can talk about it a little bit.
Thank you.
We know what we have. We have a dead person.
Yeah.
And it is obviously suspicious because she didn't put herself in that garbage bag. With regards to this case, we're in Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
Right? What's here? So who is this person? Where is she from? As you know, you guys are going to be the first ones to get the first look. You conduct your investigation.
I am the eyes and ears of the medical examiner. I see for them, I bring it back. They depend on me to give them manner of death information in the context of how it happened. Cause of death could be anything: gunshot wound, stab wound, a fall from a height. My job is the manner of death. Homicide, suicide, accident, natural. When you walk into a scene, it's like a 3D, 4D thing. It's the sights, the smells, the sounds, the feelings in the room. That's the real context, not just a couple of photos.
For me, seeing how they lived helps me to know how they died.
So if I walk into a scene that's filled with scales and white powder and little baggies, I'm thinking, all right, drug dealer. But if I come into another apartment where there's Birkenstock sandals and PBS Channel 13 tote bags, that's a whole nother life.
When you have a body outside, you're missing the whole context of the person's life.
Now I have nothing because she's taken out of her environment and likely taken out of the area in which she was killed.
Wow. Very powerful, Barbara. The whole world of true crime, which is mostly inhabited by women, believe it or not. I think out of my audience, and I'm probably similar to a lot of true crime channels, it's like 75 to 80% women.
That's because you're good looking. No.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that, but it's truly amazing. And they're going to so gravitate towards your show because here they have a woman, a smart woman who worked in New York City, worked for the office of the chief medical examiner's office, was the chief of staff for the chief medical examiner. I mean, what better credentials could you have? And when people hear 5,000 death scenes, they're like, oh my God, how does she sleep at night? How does she do this? How does she? And, you know, in a lot of ways, Barbara, I was talking about this on the channel recently. I think we had Cato Kalin on our show from the O.J. Simpson case.
Yeah.
And I think during that show, we said something like, you have all these images in your mind and you can't unsee them. You can't unsee all the bad things you've seen. And I know I read your book, and I know that did bother you. It does bother you. And any human being that says it doesn't, then they're not feeling it. They're not, and if this is your book again, What the Dead Know. And you talk about the trauma of seeing, and not just seeing all those dead bodies, but seeing the families, talking to the families, talking to the loved ones, having to do a death notification, dealing with the family as the investigation goes on. All those things are part of your job, as well as to homicide investigators. and it is taxing after a while. It does take its toll on you. And as I said, it's probably a great, I don't know if this will ever be on the wall like a quote from Plato, but you can't unsee it. Sergeant William Cannon, NYPD. You know, I don't know if I'll ever get credit for that because I probably didn't coin that phrase, but I think it's a great phrase because it talks about police PTSD, and not just police, but medical legal investigators and anyone that deals with death as their job.
Yeah. It's become like a cause for me. And I speak at various places about the result of seeing evil all day long. First responders like you, last responders like me. You get in there and you see things that sometimes are so beyond what you could imagine in terms of cruelty, sadism, evil. And because we saw it every day, remember when I started out in 92, we were getting 2,400 homicides a year. So every single day I was seeing a homicide. And you start to think that that's the way the world is, that you're constantly in danger of being killed or committing suicide or falling off a building, because that's what you see all day. And you think, well, that's normal. We're all about to be murdered. But it's not true. It's just what we see, but it's not the truth. And it took me a long time to realize that the world is actually a good place. But as far as the things I've seen, my God, when I first wrote the book, did a first draft, took it to my editor. They read through it, and then we met, and he said, Barbara, where are you? I said, I'm right here. He said, no, where are you in the book? You're telling me great stories, but I want to see what you see. I want to smell it. I want to hear it, and I want to feel it. I'm like, oh, shit, you want me to cry? He said, yeah, I want you to cry. I go back and rewrite it with me in there, and the feelings come up, and I'm like, Jesus, this is so hard. But thank God I got good therapy. So I've learned to get rid of some of these things, and it helped me to write it out, helped me to tell people. And even doing this show, The Death Investigator with Barbara Butcher, what a great title, right? Going back to these scenes and reliving those feelings, it brings up a lot, but that's a good thing. We got to think about it. And you'll notice in the show that some of these detectives, they get emotional when they're thinking about what happened. So yeah, it's a big deal, and we need help. We need.
Barbara, I was one time, just not to interrupt you, but I was teaching a class at a college, and I was talking about the murder of this 13-year-old girl, and I started weeping, and I had like no control over it. And I was like, where the hell did that come from? And it's PTSD. That's what it is.
Yeah, came from your heart.
Yeah.
We walk around so tough showing up at a scene. Hey, guys, what's going on? What do you got for me? We act, we're right in there. We're cold, we're hard, we're tough. That's not the case at all. I know detectives who've been haunted for years by cases, still cry over them. I know I've been haunted by them for years. So it's not just caring about closing an investigation. It's caring about those people and their families. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and sometimes you become the target of their ire. I remember we went to the home of a drug dealer in the 2-3 precinct, Spanish Harlem, who was, I don't know, he was shot about 10 times. Mm. And we knew who he was. He was a drug dealer. And so it's hard to get all that sympathetic. That's, dying is part of the consequences of selling drugs, dying a violent death. And I remember we went to talk to his family, and they immediately attacked us. You are no better than him just because you wear a suit. And we were like, hey, we're just doing our job here. We're not telling you that we're better or superior to your brother, to your son. We're just trying to do our job. And they were like, well, you're no better. And they were screaming at us. And I was just like, all right, that's part of this job, right?
Yeah, it is. People, it's so much easier to be angry than it is to grieve. And you look for a target for your anger, that your loved one's been killed. No matter if he's a drug dealer or anything, he's still somebody's kid. You know, he's still got a mother and father out there. Remember him as a baby being all sweet. And yeah, so they take it out on us sometimes. That's real hard.
You've had that happen to you too?
Oh, absolutely. Multiple times. Yeah. Yeah. It's, why are you in here? Why are you poking into his life? Ma'am, I'm just trying to get answers for you. You know, I'm trying to get a little justice here, okay? And I want you to know all the truth of how this happened. But, hey, we're sensitive people in an insensitive situation.
Yeah. You know, I remember one time I spoke to, I've had that great Dr. Washkel on our show a couple of times, and he's a suicide prevention expert. I don't want to call him the suicide doctor because
Yeah.
people will think others, but he's a suicide prevention expert.
Mm.
And I had said to him, I go, is it okay, like, you know, when you have like a real stressful case or a big case, that you all go out together drinking? Is that okay? And he goes, of course it is. He goes, yeah, you should do that. He goes, but if you start doing it 7 nights a week or 6 nights a week, or you start doing it every single night, then I think you got to pull it back a little bit, and there might be a problem there. But yeah, there's stress in police work. There's, you know, horrible things you see. And if you guys all want to go out, guys and girls, talk about it over a few drinks, that's the healthiest thing on earth. And I didn't expect a doctor, you know, of suicide prevention to say that, but he did. And I was sort of happy he did say that, because I didn't feel that there was anything wrong with that. But I know, you know, they used to call 4 to 12s 4 to 4s.
Yeah.
You would finish your tour at 12 and then go drink until 4, you know. And if you did that a lot, you would have no other life, because you had to go home and go to bed and then come back to work immediately. You know, it seemed like that's all you were doing, was going to work, drinking, and then coming back to work, you know. And that's not a very healthy life.
It is. You know, I'm so glad that I stopped drinking before I got on the job, because I would be out every night. I remember a case where, you know, I talk about in the book, a young girl, she's at the top of the building, and, you know, she's been set on fire. And we're all like working in silence, like, it was so awful, so awful. And there was even a fireman who kept turning his face to the wall because he had tears coming out of his eyes. And the guy said, "Hey, Barbara, we're all going for a drink after this. You want to come with us? You should come." And I'm like, God, what am I going to do? I can't drink. And if I go in a bar and I'm feeling like this, it's going to be really tempting. So I went up on the roof and I prayed. I'm just looking at the sky and praying, please, God, don't let me drink over this.
Barbara, was that Paolo Ilata that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was one, just for a little reference, she was one of the victims of Aaron Key, who was a serial murderer, plying his trade in Spanish Harlem and the East Side, Harlem precincts 2325 in Manhattan North. And I think Paola Ilata was one of the first, I think, right?
Yeah, you know, he did this for 10 years. He was a serial rapist, a serial killer, and he just blended into the night and got these, it was young girls too, 15, 16, even a 13-year-old, for Christ's sake. And yeah, he was a very, very evil person. I don't know, Paola might have been in the middle. Yeah, it's hard to remember. He had so many victims.
I think that was also one of the first cases in New York State that DNA matched homicides together. Not in the country, but in New York State. I think it was one of the first cases. And that was when DNA could take 3 to 6 months to come back. Remember that, Bob?
Yeah.
And now it's amazing. I think they can get it back in 24 hours now.
We can.
It's incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. And the importance of that for those that are listening is that if detectives can have the DNA information back in 24 hours, they can use it to interview and interrogate the suspect, which is invaluable. Because now when he bullshits and says, "I was never there," oh, okay, you know. And the greatest ones are the what they call the cases in sex crimes, where the perpetrator is in prison And I'm thinking of two detectives from Manhattan North, Eddie Taki and Alan Sandomir. That was their job, to go to prisons. They called them, what was it called? Not cold hits. Was it called cold hits or hot hits or whatever?
Yeah.
The rape could be 20 or 25 years earlier.
Yeah.
And they go into the prison and they would interview this guy. And it sounds easy. Oh, we got you. No, you never jump right at that. You ask him a lot of questions. Were you ever in this neighborhood? Were you ever in this building? Were you ever in this apartment? Never. Do you know this woman? And then you can see, sometimes when they show the picture, it's hard for the guy to pretend, oh, I've never seen her before.
Yeah.
Okay, so never seen her before. Okay, then how did your DNA wind up inside her?
Yeah.
And then their face just goes blank. And those guys did an unbelievable job. And that's where, it's not so simple just to go in there and accuse someone. You got to use your brains and lead up to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, DNA is more than just a tool to identify a perp. It's a way to go back in time. And if it starts matching to multiple cases over the years, you've got a serial rapist, and now you can get these girls, these women who've been raped, you give them a measure of safety and solace, knowing the guy is in jail now, because these women, they walk around with the knowledge that their rapist is somewhere in the city, and this can go on for years. So going back and tracking, linking those cases, it's a really good thing psychologically.
Yeah, invaluable. And another guy who was fantastic from Manhattan Special Victims was John Savino.
Mm-hmm.
He was just, he taught me a lot, even about, he was so thorough, when he would look at a crime scene, he would always make sure he did areas of entry and exit, including the escape routes. And so many times he found such important evidence on the escape route of the perpetrator that nailed the perpetrator. We actually had this guy one time, Stephen Peppuccino was his name. Look at this. I remember these names because they're sort of burnt into you like a brand on a cow, and so colorful language I use. Anyway, he attempted to murder this woman on the Upper East Side and raped her. And for whatever it was, 6 months or a year, Savino couldn't find him anywhere. And he went on America's Most Wanted. And the next morning, the phone in 3280 Broadway in the homicide office was ringing off the hook because there was no one working for the special victims. So they called us and they said, Stephen Peppuccino is in a bar in Queens. We were like, beautiful. So being experienced, I called the squad in Queens that was down the block from this bar. They go in and he's sitting at the bar drinking, and they did an okey doke. They walked in and out. Oh, he's not here, and they left. So meantime, we were flying to Queens. We go to Queens. We went into the bar. They said, yeah, the detectives walked in and we're trying to go, that's him. And whatever reason, they didn't take the signal. So we said, all right, he's a drunk. He's an alcoholic. Let's just start canvassing bars. So we started canvassing bars. The second window we looked in, there he is at the bar. And it was so sweet. It was so, not for him. He had 6 9mm Glocks pointed at his head as we brought him to the ground and handcuffed him.
I love that part.
Yeah, that's the best part, the capture, And he's doing life in prison now. Real bad guy. And it was so beautiful to see something, another success story for America's Most Wanted,
Yeah.
And to be and look, Savino did all the work. We just did the apprehension. And it was a pleasure to do the apprehension. It's funny, Barbara, how you remember these stories. Usually you remember them on your 3rd or 4th Corona, in the bar Coogan's we all used to hang out in, right? That was when we tell these stories. We call them war stories. Cops tell war stories. And that's why cops are such good storytellers. They love telling war stories. And if you're Irish, they get enhanced even more, Because you got the blarney. They say you got the blarney.
The silver tongue of the drunken Irishman.
That's right. You know how to tell stories, and people love to hear these stories. I remember that's why a lot of kids, when I taught college, loved to take my classes. They were like, "Oh my God, he's got the best stories." They would say, or kids would stop me in the hall. They go, "Oh, you're Cannon?" Like they had heard about
Yeah.
me. I said, "Yeah, why?" "Oh, no, I just wanted to know who you were."
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I know there's 1,000 stories, and I wish I could do another book on, but now I got a show we can do these cases.
Well,
So
you should do another book. And the other thing I want to mention, just that while we're on it, the show's not over yet, but you were a fantastic teacher. You taught at the criminal investigation course. And to me, one of the cardinal rules of being a teacher, and some people out there can disagree with me, is you need to make it interesting.
yeah,
Because what you teach could be very boring. And what I would teach could be very boring. But guess what? Throw some humor in there. Throw some jokes in there. And that's what you did. And you were one of the most popular, if not the most popular teacher at CIC, which stood for the criminal investigation course, because everyone wanted to hear what you had to say, because they're like, she's funny too. She's really funny, but she has a sick sense of humor. And that's why, people loved hearing you teach.
oh, thanks. Yeah, I taught CIC and then the homicide course too. And I love doing that. I mean, sitting in a room with all these detectives and they're all watching and they're like, what's she going to say? And I'm showing them pictures and they're like, oh my God. But then I make a joke, not at the expense of the victim, but in service of getting them to hear me.
Right.
No matter what you teach, no matter what you speak about, as long as it's entertaining in some way, and there's very little entertaining about a homicide, right? But
Right.
if you present it in such a way that, I talk a little funny, I know that. Like I'm showing them a guy's came down from a height, back of his head is blown open, and the medulla oblongata, the bad piece of his brain, is 10 feet away. I said, gentlemen, you'll notice here, ladies and gentlemen, that the medulla oblongata has flown from the area whence the original strike did take place, resulting in a street, and they're like, what is she doing? Why is she talking like that? Because
But as cops have a macabre sense of humor, so
Yeah.
they get it right away, and they're like, "Oh shit, this is funny."
And there's so many things. We did laugh a lot, even in the autopsy room. You have to, because there's so much emotion in it. You got to let that out. And I remember one of our medical examiners, she was just she was a fellow in training. And she went to do a case with one of the MLIs, and it was a body. It was somewhat decomposed, covered with leaves up in Inwood Park. And suddenly, the guy kicks something in the leaves, the investigator, and the head starts rolling towards her. The head's actually separated, is rolling towards her, and she's jumping up and down, screaming, the head, the head, the head. And for some reason, we thought that was so damn funny. Hey, remember me? The head, the head. We laughed all day about that.
Right.
It was
But
just
to some people that may be, that's sick. You're not showing respect. No, something. That's part of what we do, and every once in a while you have to laugh because it's so horrible,
Right.
So
And what we're doing? We're trying to avoid thinking about what it was like to be killed that way. Like I'm in there, I'm figuring out how the person was killed, but I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel their terror, anything that they felt, their pain. So yeah, I need a joke after the case to get rid of that feeling.
Absolutely. Barbara, I'm going to do a quick commercial and then I'm going to play another clip from the Death Investigator. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. And now a word from our sponsor. FanDuel's got an offer you don't want to miss this NFL season. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? You must be 21 years or older and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbookfanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text Hope New York in New York. Well, that was a mouthful. Anyway, this is from the Oxygen Network. Barbara Butcher, the death investigator. One thing, they shot the scene that I was in the bar, and you went into that bar, and he walks up to me and he goes, "Hello, sir." He didn't recognize me. I go, "What you call me, sir? I'm Sergeant Cannon." He goes, "Oh, Sarge!" And again, I hadn't seen him like 25 years or something. So why should I have expected that he would remember exactly, what I look like and everything? But then when I told him who I was, he was like, "Oh, of course." But it's funny. These jobs like ours that go decades, some could even do as many as 4 decades on the police department. It's crazy, because that is your whole life. And these people become huge parts of your life, and then you never see them again. Or when you do see them, there's an immediate recollection once you hear the name, because sometimes you recognize someone from being in a situation, right? And if you're not in that situation, they're out of context, and you're like, "Well, who is that? That's so," and you're like, "Oh my God, how did I not know that?" Right?
Yeah, I see. Sometimes I'll just be walking down the street. A guy in a trench coat will stop me in good shoes, stop me and say, "Barbara Butcher?" Yeah, hi. Detective Joey. Remember we did that case in the 3-2 when the guy came out. I say, "Yeah, which one?" "Okay, yeah, the one we came out of the building. Remember, and they got shot." And it's just so amazing that after, God, it's like 25, 30 years that you still see someone and it can bring you right back to that feeling. I got to be honest, I miss the job so much. I really do. Just the feeling of camaraderie, of sharing an unshareable experience with others on the job. God, I miss that.
Barbara, there's parts of it I miss, but overall, I don't miss it. It was very stressful, and there's once you've had enough, and I had enough, and like people will say, you'll know when it's time to leave, and that applied to me. I knew it was time. I'd had enough, and I wanted to do something else. I wanted to try other things with my life, and but I do. I mean, I look upon the job as the greatest experience of my life, absolutely. But you don't want it you don't want it to define you, yet it'll always be a part of you, And what you were talking about, people saying, "Do you remember this? This is." I've had cops come up to me and go, "Remember this case? And we were doing this, and you did that, and we did." And I act like I do, but I have no recollection at all. "Oh yeah. And then I'm like, "Holy shit, I don't remember a thing about that case,"
Yeah.
Because there were so many of them, and so many years, and sometimes you don't remember. And I didn't remember a couple of times when people came up to me. Most of the time I do, but there's been times where like, "Oh my God, I had to pretend. I don't want to think I'm a senile 60-something," So,
It's true. These are such defining moments in our lives that it sticks in the mind. And in the show, I'm working with Brian McLeod, great detective, great guy. And I said, "Brian, do you remember, you called me and say, 'Hey, Barbara, I want to talk about this case. The girl thrown in the bag and thrown in the trash. Do you remember that?' I said, 'Which one?' He said, the one over on the west side by that club under the underpass. And she's put in a bag." I said, "Yeah, which one?" I had so many
right.
in black plastic bags thrown on the side of the road or thrown in the trash. Like, isn't that sick? that I have to ask which one, because that many women were killed that way?
How about a name?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Remind me of the name. Yeah, it's a terrible thing, and it's a good thing. I mean, I learned so much about life from that job.
Learn so much about life from death. Let me go back to this from the death investigator, star of the show, Barbara Butcher there, looking confident as this detective stands over her. If anyone wants to see the rest of that, they're going to have to watch your show, because this was a great case. I actually did work on it. It was the 2-3 squads case.
Yep.
The murders were done in the confines of the 2-3 precinct. Homicides are usually caught by where they occur, but early in the investigation, if you don't know where it occurred, then it's where the body's found. That's why John Flannery actually got involved in that, because the body was in the jurisdiction of the 19th precinct, but he didn't know yet that the murders, because the mom was also murdered in this case. And anyway, if you want to know the full story tonight, watch Barbara's show, The Death Investigator, on the Oxygen Network. Barbara, I don't want to keep you. I said an hour. It goes so fast though, because it's like I feel like I was drinking Corona and just having a conversation with you, But first of all, if you have not got this book, if you haven't bought this book, that's my street English. If you haven't bought this book, What the Dead Know, it is a fantastic read. I guarantee you will not be able to put it down. You can get it on Amazon. And also, Barbara Butcher, The Death Investigator, on the Oxygen Network. Right now, it shows every Saturday at 9 p.m.
Yes, that's right.
And they've done 6 episodes so far. And I don't think they're going to ever run out of episodes, because I see you're also doing episodes from other jurisdictions, which is great, because here they have one of the top medical legal investigators in the world, not in New York City, in the world, Barbara Butcher. Barbara, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And again, I respect your time, and I know you probably have 10 other things to do today. So even though we could keep going and talking forever, I love you, Barbara. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Have a great day, and God bless you. Final words, Barbara.
Love you. Love your show. And it's so good to be back talking with
That's
you.
great. And I hope you make $1 million, not $1 million, millions of dollars doing this show.
Sure, that would be nice, right? Not happening.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, on behalf of myself and medical legal investigator extraordinaire, Barbara Butcher. Have a great day, everyone, and God bless.
Stay safe.
One episode just ain't enough.